In the Technology History series, we will discuss an electronic device that is a kitchen essential for many people, a savior of lunches and dinners, the microwave oven. Its origin is quite curious, its operation relatively simple, and there are many fascinating facts along its journey. But before we dive in, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share it with those who can't live without their microwave, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss content like this. So, let's dive into the history of the microwave oven music. Before we get to the device itself, we need to talk about the technology behind it. Although it took a while to become a reality, the idea of heating things without using fire has existed in theory for a long time. In 1865, Maxwell's equations described electromagnetic waves and their various characteristics. Later on, Heinrich Hertz made important contributions to the practical understanding of these waves' radiation, including their ability to raise temperatures. However, Hertz eventually shifted his focus to radio waves, which led to the development of the radio itself. The topic advanced with the 1934 proposition of heating materials using high-frequency electromagnetic waves. It was Bell Labs that made this observation, a company that had been around since the invention of the telephone by Granell and had given rise to various other technologies. Companies like RCA and General Electric were also aware of this possibility and conducted some tests, but without commercial intentions. In this decade, the Chicago World's Fair showcased a in-house shortwave transmitter that could cook a steak and some potatoes on metal surfaces. By the way, these World Fairs are major public exhibitions described as universal, and they began in London in 1851. Each year, a new city hosted the event, and each pavilion was from a different country, where they could showcase their products, services, and inventions to visitors or potential commercial partners. These fairs were also significant for architecture, as constructions like the Eiffel Tower in Paris and the Space Needle Observation Tower in Seattle were built for world fairs. There are still editions of these fairs today, though they are much less celebrated, of course. This brings us to 1940, when British researchers at the University of Birmingham created a component with a bizarre, almost sci-fi name, the magnetron. It sounds almost like a Transformers name, but it's actually an electronic metal valve made of magnets. Initially, the military used this innovation to emit radar signals and detect enemy ships or airplanes during World War II. This brings us to the figure of Percy Spencer, an engineer who worked at Raytheon Laboratories, the company that manufactured magnetrons. Legend has it that one day, Percy noticed that a candy bar in his pocket started to melt when he got close to one of these devices. This story has the feel of a legend, but those involved swear that's exactly how it happened. Some sources say it was a chocolate bar, while others mention it was a peanut candy. The fact is that Percy probably already had the idea that electromagnetic waves could heat things, and he was the one who decided to put it into practice. After numerous tests, starting with popcorn, which would become a classic, in 1945, he filed the first patent for a microwave oven that used wartime technologies for a much more peaceful purpose. Spencer didn't even know if the technology was safe yet, but he secured the intellectual property rights and only then began developing a product. In 1946, just a year later, sales of the first microwave oven in history began. It was called the Radarange, and it had little chance of success. This was because the device was a monstrosity, standing 1.8 meters tall, consuming enormous amounts of energy, and weighing 350 kilograms. It was extremely expensive and targeted only at professional kitchens. With the end of World War II, research and development for military purposes by companies were greatly reduced. And then the technology migrated to domestic use, and that's when the real evolution began. But how does this technology work? Let's break it down simply. Electrical energy is converted into electromagnetic radiation waves generated by the magnetron. A metal tube channels the radiation from the antenna to the interior of the oven, where these microwaves reach the food. The water, fat, or sugar molecules in the food vibrate, and it is this movement of the energized molecules that generates heat. The microwave oven is a sealed metal box, with the door's grid making it a properly protected device, ensuring no harm to the food or the user under ideal operating conditions. The food structure is not altered, so it doesn't become radioactive or anything similar. However, there is a long list of materials that should not be heated in it. But going back to the timeline, in 1947, New York's main train station showcased a fast food machine called Speedy Winnie. It sold hot dogs with the difference that the sausage was heated on the spot with a brand new microwave oven. Then, we jump to 1955, when a manufacturer named Tappan launched the first residential microwave oven in partnership with Raytheon. The model was the size of a conventional oven and cost almost $1,300 at the time, which today would be over $1,000. Tappan showcased the equipment at the World's Fair in early 1964 in New York, where the then president of Brazil, João Goulart, reportedly saw it and was impressed by this technology. But before it could become a household staple, it needed to have more utility, which came primarily in the 1950s with the introduction of frozen meals with compartments, meant mainly for American dinners in front of the television. These products became known as TV dinners. Initially, they were heated in conventional ovens, but gradually, the microwave oven was seen as a faster and even more economical alternative. Later, this culture expanded to other foods like frozen pizzas and eventually to ready-to-eat meals. At the same time, convection ovens were also evolving during this period, eventually leading to the creation of oil-free fryers decades later. Now we arrive in 1967, when Raytheon acquired a company called Amana Refrigeration. Amana introduced more affordable microwave models that were primarily smaller, designed to sit on countertops instead of directly on the floor, making them much more convenient. Around this time, Sharp launched the first microwave oven with a rotating disc or turntable, which became a standard feature for this type of product. In the 1970s, other brands began to launch their models, and that's when microwave sales really took off. Changes in society itself, with people having less time or less inclination to cook everything from scratch, have also led to the rise of foods that can be easily reheated in these ovens. In the excitement, some models even began to experiment with bold designs, like the Matsushita 9635-61060 from the mid-70s, which had a door that opened upwards. It's worth mentioning the expansion to other countries during the 70s. Japan became a leading nation in microwave oven manufacturing, starting with the Sharp R10. Smaller homes without conventional ovens in the Asian country made the product fit seamlessly into daily life. By the 1980s, Samsung developed its own manufacturing technology by studying the competition, becoming a reference in South Korea. During the 1980s, the microwave oven began to evolve in functionality, gradually acquiring digital controls, lighting sensors, and programmable functions like defrosting. In 1986, Campbell, the canned soup company, invented a microwave-safe tray, which set the standard for frozen food packaging. To give you an idea, by this year, 1 in 4 households in the United States already had a microwave oven. But in the 1990s, with even more companies launching models, the statistics skyrocketed. By 1997, 90% of U.S. households had a microwave oven, making it as indispensable as a television or refrigerator. Interestingly, the microwave oven is an example of a device that has evolved in appearance and functionality only incrementally over time. It has gradually gained new features, the design has become more elegant, and the control buttons have improved. But overall, it remains quite similar to the models from decades ago. Consequently, we won't be listing only the evolutions from recent years. The latest changes have mainly focused on connectivity. The microwave can now be smart, as part of Internet of Things, IoT ecosystems, with features such as remote control via smartphone. Additionally, some models even incorporate convection technologies, making them a sort of hybrid with an air fryer. The current market leaders include LG, Panasonic, Brandt, and Breville, but numerous brands with appliance segments release their own models, offering options for all tastes and budgets. And what about here in Brazil? Well, this device arrived quite late here, and its name was initially different. In 1979, the Japanese company Sanyo launched Brazil's first electronic oven, capable of performing wonders like roasting meat in just 9 minutes. Over the years, other companies introduced their models here, and one example was National, a brand of Panasonic, which launched a model with a turntable in 1985. However, the microwave oven truly became popular in Brazil only from the early 1990s. This happened due to both the lower prices of models and the opening of the market to more foreign brands, as well as the increased consumption of frozen foods. Here, this was a legacy of the hyperinflation period, when families bought more food to stock up for fear of price hikes. In 1999, the industry sold 1 million units for the first time. By 2012, 50% of consumers in the A and B classes already had a microwave oven at home. It took a while, but it eventually became a national passion. And that's the story of the microwave oven, created almost by accident and working in nearly the same way for over half a century but essential in many people's lives. If you have a suggestion for a company, product, or service for this series, leave a comment. The sources consulted for the script are in the description. And don't forget, this is just a summary, just a snapshot. Many things end up being left out. Check out the Technology History playlist to see what we've already discussed. Until next time.